At least 70,000 companies around the world are concerned with artificial intelligence, one of the key features of the fourth industrial revolution, marked by technology as it impacts every aspect of human life. In the past few days, France has been host to the latest summit on the action for artificial intelligence, attended by a crew of world leaders, including America's newest Vice President, J.D. Vance. The European Union Commission and African leaders sought to raise fears which are coming from the manipulation of artificial intelligence. But who will listen to them in a world where everybody seems to be concerned only with the opportunities offered by the technology? My guest today on GlobeWatch is the first African to serve at the Microsoft headquarters in the United States at the managerial level. He is Cameroonian-born Jacques Bonjawo, who was equally the pioneer president of the African Virtual University. Jacques Bonjawo, thank you very much indeed for being guest on GlobeWatch.
Thank you for having me, Charles.
When the Artificial Intelligence Safety Summit took place in London in 2023 in the United Kingdom, we had just 29 countries and a few bosses of the corporate world who attended. But this year in Paris, France, at the Artificial Intelligence Action Summit, we had 100 countries in attendance, plus 1,000 people. What does that interpret when it comes to the interest artificial intelligence is generating globally?
Obviously, that suggests the sea change that we are observing on AI, which is reshaping our world, which is reshaping our future. You sort of touch on it, which in a final analysis is reshaping our identities. I was one of the guests, as you know, to participate to this encounter. And one of the things that I was very pleased to see is that during the summit, we have some type of conferences with people who are highly qualified, such as Joseph Stiglitz, who is the Nobel Prize in Economics, but has said a lot in terms of global changes in the world, you know, globalization. He is really the key expert. He was a member of the panel. So was I. So I was honored to have in-depth discussion of what we can do to take on AI, to make sure that we use AI for the common good and not to use AI to harm the mankind.
There are so many personalities who gathered in Paris, France for the summit. Of course, co-financed and co-spearheaded by France and India, or co-hosted. And amongst the touring figures was, of course, the U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, and you were inside that hall where all the decision makers were speaking. He stressed that he wants to focus more on the opportunities offered by artificial intelligence and not the fears that come with it. As a scientist yourself, did you understand his language?
Yes, we can say that we all need to focus on the opportunities, indeed. But we cannot ignore the challenges of AI. As a matter of fact, the mere fact that Africa has its specific values matters a lot. Let me give you an example. We have our own values that we don't necessarily share with the rest of the world, such as solidarity, inclusion. If we don't take action, if our leaders don't take action at the continental level, as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, Africa will become a battleground, so to speak, for foreign interests. Anything can happen in Africa. You can see things such as disinformation at a very high level. You can see things such as population manipulation at a very high level, and you name it. So that's my concern. As a matter of fact, as you know, we wrote a letter to African head of states and governments precisely to ask them to act now. The time is to act now. Obviously, they're not going to do everything by themselves, but they need to lead. They need to create a framework so that we can take on the challenges of artificial intelligence.
You are one of those who signed the letter to African governments on how to mainstream artificial intelligence in their economies, in their societies, in their communities. In a moment, we will discuss that. But first, the Paris Summit on Artificial Intelligence concluded with a towering declaration on inclusion signed by 58 countries, the US excluded, the United Kingdom excluded. What did you take home as a key policy draft which needs swift implementation at the level of artificial intelligence implementation from the Paris gathering?
I would say that my interest was to make sure that Africa is well represented. And in my view, that was the case. They fully understand that if Africa doesn't participate in reshaping AI, that's not good for the whole humanity. As a matter of fact, you know that there are a lot of biases when it comes to AI. And those biases exclude a lot of Africans. For instance, if you ask an AI application today to give you names of some engineers in technology, they're going to give you names of men, for the most part, without women, and most likely those men will be all white. This is what we call bias. It doesn't necessarily suggest that somebody was trying to do it on purpose. It's just that we are using old data to do this kind of research. Therefore, what we need to do in Africa is to create, so to speak, our own database. We can share that with international countries, but we have to create our own data. And one of the things that I was very pleased with personally was the fact that India, as you just mentioned, co-chair this encounter. As you know, India, we cannot really say that India is a very rich country. But we can say that in terms of technology, they have the knowledge. They have what it takes to really contribute.
They have the equipment.
They have the equipment. As a matter of fact, they had the equipment.
They have the raw material.
Exactly, they have the raw material. Therefore, it was a good thing that India be well represented because we have a lot in common, believe it or not, we have a lot in common with India.
One of the key actors of the artificial intelligence movement in Africa and the benefits that come with it, if you like, you call it opportunities, is of course you. And one of the areas is medicine. You started Genesis Telecare, right, which is to ease healthcare systems in Africa in providing medical solutions to their communities. How much of a benefit is artificial intelligence in helping African countries in particular solve the myriad of their health challenges?
I must say that this is a very good question, Charles, because one of the key sectors where AI will have a huge, I say huge impact is precisely healthcare in terms of improving significantly the healthcare system. As a matter of fact, artificial intelligence is already doing that. Even our own doctors, I mean Cameroonian doctors, are using artificial intelligence on the daily basis. Yes, when we started, as you mentioned, Genesis Telecare, that move was meant to be, in my view, very successful. And we did get a support from the government, and I appreciate that with the then Minister of Economy, which was Minister Louis-Paul Motaze. I'm very grateful that they helped. But we had to face another challenge, which was precisely access to the internet. That was very costly to us. Therefore,
that should be improved today significantly, right?
Yes, there's improvement, but at the time it was very difficult.
Quite
because,
challenging, I understand.
of course, we had to spend our own money.
For a doctor to be in Sangmilima
exactly.
or in Dob, and
exactly.
then, or a patient to be in Dob, and
exactly.
you to do operations from Yaoundé from
exactly.
a distance, you needed energy, the power issue.
Absolutely. And as I said, I want to be grateful to what the government did. But that still wasn't enough to make the project, or the program rather, very successful. But now, with the younger generation, I'm very hoping that they're going to take over and get up to speed with the dynamics of AI.
I think at one moment, a system came on board which was simply known as Gifted Mom, which could
exactly.
conduct...
I know that program. That was...
with Alentef.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure,
I know him.
Consultation for pregnant women from a distance.
Absolutely. That was a very good idea, and I liked it a lot. There was also my younger brother, Arthur Zhang, who made
with the cardio part.
Exactly, with the cardio part. So we need somebody to coordinate all these efforts and make sure that we take the full benefits.
All of these that we are talking are clear examples of AI-powered elements. As you and I talk, we have roughly 70,000 artificial intelligence companies in the world. Most of them, of course, are based in the US, followed maybe India, France, and Europe, and the UK all combined. Where is the portion of Africa in all of that?
Obviously, we know that we don't have a big part. We don't play a key role. And that's one of the reasons why we wrote this letter. We are doing our best. There is some type of progress. There is no doubt about it. I'm always very pleased when I move, not just around Africa, but inside our own country. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was at the University of Ngaoundéré, where I was one of the guest speakers to give a talk, a conference, and I noticed that, you know, the young students are doing a lot of things. As I mentioned it earlier, the only thing is that they don't have enough support to go beyond what they are doing right now. Therefore, I can conclude by saying this. Africa has a lot of talented, has a very talented youth. They have the skills, they even have the drive, they have the passion. We need more support, and not just financial support. We really need to, when you see that a program or a project is working, you need to reinforce it, you need to consolidate, which is what we are hoping the government can do. For instance, you mentioned earlier that we are in Kribi with our incubator. One of the things that we are doing right now is some sort of generalization of access, which is with the student in high school, we urge them to come to our center. Just with 10,000 francs CFA, they can get a class, not just on technology, but on AI. And it's been very successful with the support of their own parents. That's a good thing.
Jacques Bonjawo, you are one of the pioneers, like I said earlier, of artificial intelligence in Africa. This is a story of in the year 1999, 2000, and I'm sure that if my data is correct, you accompanied billionaire Bill Gates in 2003 to meet the Senegalese president, Abdoulaye Wade. You have been part of several delegations on the continent to discuss artificial intelligence, technology-powered solutions in solving most of the continent's problems, and that is how you participated in 1999 in the marathon, New York Marathon, organized by the World Bank to source for resources to enable this movement in Africa. You were the pioneer chair of the African Virtual University. In terms of training, to have a mass of educated people with knowledge on this issue, what is the template today?
A very good question. Just a slight correction. What you said earlier is essentially correct. However, my relationship with President Wade was to accompany him as his advisor, senior advisor to the summit of Davos in Switzerland. As far as Bill Gates,
World Economic
exactly, exactly. As far as Bill Gates is concerned, that was a different trip to South Africa. Yes, you're right. It was in 2003 because we were able to convince Bill Gates, which was then the CEO and chairman of Microsoft, as you know. We were able to convince him that he needed to get up to speed with the dynamics of technology in Africa because we happen to believe that there is talent in Africa. Most people didn't believe it, but we were able to convince Bill Gates to come to Africa, and he did. And that trip was very successful in terms of the outcome, for instance, helping the African Virtual University, you mentioned it. Now, the African Virtual University obviously was designed to increase the offer in terms of education in Africa. And that was a great project. But you have to keep in mind that at the time, we were lucky to have somebody like President James Wolfenson, who was then president of the World Bank, to get his support. But unfortunately, when Wolfenson left the World Bank, I approached his successor, which was who was Wolfowitz, I believe.
Paul Wolfowitz.
Exactly, Paul Wolfowitz, and asked him if he was willing to keep supporting the project. He wasn't, he tried to be polite, but we understood that that wasn't his intent.
At least how many people did you people train in the lifespan?
Several thousand. I don't have the exact figure, but several thousand, you know. And you also have to keep in mind, Charles, that I am not an academic. I was chosen as president.
I know that you are an engineer,
exactly,
a software engineer.
Exactly.
Sure.
But they voted for me to chair the African Virtual University because they wanted to change the mindset. They wanted what you call, how do you call it again? What you call a shift in a new paradigm.
A paradigm shift.
Exactly. They wanted somebody who would bring a more practical experience, industry experience.
Than theory.
Exactly, than theory. And because we were dealing with technology. And most of all, they wanted somebody who could bring companies, including the World Bank, to support the project.
The man with contacts, and of course, you are the one.
I don't know if I have that many contacts.
You said that artificial intelligence in Africa faces a lot of challenges. I presume that one of the issues facing the movement on the continent should be financial resources. I understand that today artificial intelligence is worth roughly $223 billion in the global economy. What will Africa be losing if we don't invest in this area? If we don't master this new movement where ChatGPT, DeepSeek, and all others, TikTok, are gaining the markets?
Obviously, we could be wiped out by the change. We could be left behind, to say the least. At the end of the day, we could be simply become consumers, as always, unfortunately. We don't want to be consumers. We want to produce, maybe consume what we produce, obviously, but we want to be producer. We want to have a voice, an African voice. We want to be heard. And we have that capability to be heard. because, as I mentioned earlier, you have talented young women and young men. A lot of women are now embracing technology, as you know. As a matter of fact, in Kribi, when we had this kind of contest, the winner was a woman. The winner was a woman, which is, her name is Mrs. Etogo. She won the contest. We were very pleased to see that she beat all men and everybody.
Permit me to raise an issue which has to do with safety, which has to do with concerns of the people. The French envoy for artificial intelligence in the Paris gathering indicated that it is completely science fiction to say that this movement will completely replace the human race. There are others who pose questions related to identity manipulation, if you like, naturalists, are not all that in favor of this movement. You, as a software engineer who knows the in and outs of artificial intelligence, when those voices are raised, are they legitimate?
They are. They are absolutely legitimate. We need to be open-minded, right? We need to listen to what people, as a matter of fact, what everybody has to say. And this is the main purpose of meetings such as this one. However, the end goal is to put in place some kind of a regulatory framework. That's the key. That's what our governments need to act on, a regulatory framework. But they don't have to do it by themselves. They have to get involved companies. They have to get involved academia. They have to get involved even students. Everybody has to play a role in shaping the future of AI so that we wind up having what we call responsible AI, responsible development and use of AI. As a matter of fact, I am now honored to be the president of Africa AI Forum, which is precisely an organization, non-profit organization, that aims at making sure that the development and the use of AI is in a responsible way, in an ethical way.
You have published extensively on Africa and artificial intelligence in particular. Your first publication should be Africa in the 21st Century by the Catala editing house. One of your recent publications talked about the opportunities and challenges of artificial intelligence on the continent. What essentially are you sending across as a key message in your last publication?
The key message is that when you design a technology in general, as a young engineer or even old engineer for that matter, you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to do with this technology? In the late 30s, Albert Einstein realized that Germany could have nuclear power, could develop nuclear power. As a responsible person, he wrote a letter to then President Roosevelt and said, Mr. President,
the U.S. President, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Absolutely. I want to warn you about Germany because they have the knowledge, they have the equipment to develop nuclear weapons. Exactly. You need to take action. You need to be proactive to make sure that the US or the rest of the peaceful world, for that matter, has its own technology in terms of nuclear power. But Einstein didn't suggest that this should be used. It was just to dissuade Germany not to use its technology.
Hence,
unfortunately,
the origin
we
of
had
the atomic bombs
technology
which
Nagasaki
ended and Hiroshima.
But you have to keep in mind that that wasn't the goal of Einstein. He was very sad at the end of his days because of that. And I have to say that when I talk about what you can bring to humanity, especially I'm addressing that to the youth right now, it's really important that it's not about being rich in material resources. It's also about being positive. Einstein was not rich. Obviously, he wasn't poor. He wasn't rich. But guess what? At the end of the century, Time magazine named Einstein the man of the century. This never happened before. He is the only person who has been named by the famous Time magazine, the man of the century. So I am a very big admirer of Albert Einstein.
Finally, in Paris, you heard much talked on investing in artificial intelligence. The Trump administration says they want to invest roughly $500 billion with Sam Altman of OpenAI, and of course, the special government employee of the Trump administration, billionaire Elon Musk, says that he will be coming on board with more and more, especially with his Starlink. When you look at all of that which is happening, the European space says they will be injecting roughly 50 billion euros in that domain. When you hear all of that, as a software engineer, as a technician in artificial intelligence, what does that tell you about the future of artificial intelligence?
Obviously, that suggests that there is a huge market. There is no doubt about it. It's a huge money-making machine. There is no doubt about it. But at the same time, I'm very concerned. And I'm not the only person. Joseph Stiglitz is. And I am one of the admirers of, as you know, of Joseph Stiglitz.
I saw you guys at the Paris Artificial Intelligence Action Summit.
Exactly. What he's saying, and I agree with him, is that when you have a handful of people who are so successful financially as Elon Musk is, Bill Gates is, Apple is,
Donald Trump is,
that's not good for humanity. That suggests that the competition is flawed.
Especially when they are the top leadership positions.
Exactly. That suggests that the competition is flawed, because if the competition is open, there is no way one person can amass that type of fortune. There is no way. It's impossible.
Okay. And with that, we conclude the interview. Jacques Bonjawo, thank you very much indeed for being my guest.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
You're welcome.